Welcome, travelers, to my realm of nightmares. Allow me to be your personal assistant. Come in, take a seat, get comfortable. For when you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.
Hello, travelers. PA Nightmares here. I've noticed that over 30% of my viewers are not subscribed to the channel. So, if you're a new or a returning viewer and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you like what I do, liking the video and commenting as well, as it really helps push this video into the algorithm and it really does help the channel grow. Well, I've taken enough of your time. On to the main event. The black fingers had almost completely wrapped around my neck when Brian grabbed my jacket and pulled me. I jerked forward. I could feel my skin peeling off as the skin-like grasp released. I fell down, Brian dragging me backwards to where Liam had already crawled to.
What the fuck is that thing?
Brian stammered. I had never heard so much fear in anyone's voice before. I shook my head, and we moved further back as the thing in front of us twisted and distorted itself. I don't know, Brian. We need to get to the stairs, I said. My voice was shaking so hard, I struggled to speak. The whole area turned darker and darker by the second, as we watched the deformed figure sculpting itself, bending and snapping into an unimaginable twisted form. The darkness took over. Thick black surrounded every one of us. I could barely hear my friends over the loud cracking of the beast that stood before us under the cover of darkness. I was trembling. I couldn't move. I felt Liam's hand patting my leg, finding me, and eventually grabbing me to my feet. The windows and doors of the rooms on either side shuddered and burst open. The hurricane-like winds almost blew us off our feet. Glass and debris was flying all around us, smacking and cutting our faces. We huddled together, terrified and helpless. I huddled my head down into Liam's chest, shielding my face and attempting to cover my ears from the deafening sounds. I cried. I'm not ashamed. I began crying my fucking eyes out. I genuinely thought we were all dead in that moment. Just as quick as it all began, everything stopped in an instant. We were still huddled together, and it was a few good minutes before anyone was brave enough to look up. The darkness still filled the room, but there was a calm. I plucked up the courage to finally look in the direction of the stairs we had come from. I could see two eyes piercing the night. They followed our every move as we inched away. We had no light, but we knew the general direction of where we had to go. A horrible, slow demonic laughter emanated from the deep chasm before us. The eyes never blinked. They never looked anywhere else. They just watched us. I remember the Polaroid camera was still in the bag. I hurriedly tried to unzip it with my shaking hands. It was the only possible light source we had left. The scraping and crunching of soft dragging footsteps began to approach us slowly. I lifted the camera up and clicked. A bright flash illuminated the entire room for a split second. We saw the stairs leading up and down. We saw what direction we had to go. We also saw a tall, black mass with elongated limbs and pointed features stalking us. We began moving towards the direction of the stairs. A rush of bitter, cold, sulfuric wind slapped our cheeks and burned our noses. The smell was almost unbearable. I felt something caress my shin and foot, along with a haunting little girl's giggle.
I'm at the stairs.
Brian yelped as he almost fell down. I flashed the camera again. The photo bumped my knee as it fell to the ground and made me flinch. The flash revealed it was in the furthest corner away now, still staring at us intently, but seemed further away as we stepped down one at a time. I flashed the camera down the stairs. Everything seemed clear. The photo gently collapsed onto the step. We continued our descent, holding on to each other for dear life as we reached the second landing. I snapped the camera into the darkness. A line of small, hunched-over shadow figures stood all around, just watching. I snapped back up the stairs. The huge, demonic beast-like figure was crawling down the steps behind us on all fours, so quiet we never heard a thing. I could see eyes trained on us from everywhere when the flash disappeared. I had visions of us getting to the part of the stairs that had crumbled away, and all of us being thrown off. I had visions of us being captured here forever and slaughtered in the most horrific ways. I snapped another photo. The flash lit the way to the last set of stairs. We held on to each other, and we bolted for it. I felt things grab at my face and legs, pulling my jacket, and by the sounds of Brian and Liam scream, I imagined that they were feeling the same. We darted down the first few steps. As I clicked the camera, the flash came just in time to stop us. The first floor seemed further down than before. Liam, without hesitation, began crouching down, ready to dangle himself off the crumbling stairway and drop down. We just had to hope he wouldn't injure himself. I flashed the camera back upstairs. We could see a crowd of black shadows beginning to form at the top. My heart was racing, and I felt faint. The photo fell again to the ground and grazed my leg. I almost fell backwards. The sound of a grunt, with broken glass and stones being disturbed from below, confirmed to us that Liam had made the drop.
You okay?
Brian shouted.
I'm fine. Where's this fucking ladder?
Liam screamed back, sounding panicked. I hit the camera again. The ladder was in the far corner. There were rocks and wood laying all over the place.
Keep going, Danny. I don't want to hurt myself here,
Liam instructed. He sounded a little more optimistic, like we might be able to make it. I snapped as quickly as I could. Every 2 or 3, I would turn the camera upstairs. The crowd of figures were getting larger every time. Some of them began taking a step or 2 down.
Liam, we need to be quicker, man,
I screamed. Brian was shaking like a leaf. I kept clicking the camera. The photos were falling like autumn leaves all around us. Liam made it to the ladder and picked it up. I kept the flash going as much as possible until he was able to get back and set it up right underneath us. Brian went first. I used the flash to guide him as best I could. He made it no problem. As he climbed down, I flashed the camera back up the stairs. The shadow figures were closing in. Only about 4 steps away. I had to move fast. I crouched and got down to my stomach. I began to throw my legs over the edge. Icy cold, putrid breath met my face as I carefully lowered myself to the ladder. Sheer terror and adrenaline consumed me as I tried so hard not to fall. Every part of my body was shaking violently as I felt something slowly creep up my hand and onto my wrist. I screamed as I tried to lower myself faster. I was terrified of falling, and I was terrified of lingering too long. I felt my foot just touch the top step. Then I was able to lower myself to the second step down, holding the crumbling stairs by nothing more than my fingertips. As I heard something laughing from above me, I felt the stairs begin to crumble and crack more. The time was now, and I had to just go for it. I let go quickly and got my footing on the third step, immediately dropping myself to grab hold of the top rung. The ladder shook violently and began to topple. I screamed for help. Brian and Liam attempted to steady it, but I could feel it falling. I quickly got down another few steps before the ladder clattered onto the ground, taking me with it. Luckily, I was around the halfway point, and I didn't fall too far. I hurt my arm and leg on one side, but mostly felt okay to continue. I flashed the camera up one last time to see multiple arms dragging down, grabbing indiscriminately at us.
Just fucking run,
Liam said, turning immediately. We dashed for the last set of stairs, leaving the ladder where it fell, almost tripping over each other as we scrambled to make it down to the ground level. The front door lay open, spilling a small amount of moonlight inside the building. As we approached the bottom of the stairs, the door slammed shut with such force it apparently cracked the wood. A monstrous roar followed us down the stairs, and there was only one thing for it. We all ran together to start kicking and bashing the door. We were all now screaming and crying while frantically kicking and shoulder barging the door. The sounds got closer and closer until everything stopped. Everything felt quiet and calm. The door slowly creaked open, and we all took a step back. We all looked at one another. Then Brian just said,
Bolt.
With that, we ran as fast as we could to the perimeter fence. Liam boosted me over first, then Brian. He was able to scale the fence himself with such ease, he was on his bike before any of us. We cycled like madmen through the forest trails, guided by the scarce moonlight piercing through the trees. I couldn't even describe the relief I felt when we made it to the road. The cool, fresh night air filled my lungs, and I felt like I had been reborn. I smiled. I actually smiled. We cycled all the way back to Liam's and snuck into his garage, where we stayed until the sun came up. We struggled to calm ourselves down after what had just happened, and mostly sat in complete silence, full of adrenaline, but too afraid to move or make any sounds. The sky was getting lighter by the minute. Liam stood up and checked if we were awake. I'm going to bed, guys. I need to try to sleep. Stay here as long as you want, he said as he turned and went inside. I looked at Brian, who was lying on the floor with wide, bloodshot eyes. I might try and head home too, man, I said to him. Brian nodded. What are you gonna do? I asked.
I don't know. I think I'll leave soon. Just trying to get my head sorted out.
He replied.
I'll be okay. You go get yourself home, Danny.
I nodded at Brian. No worries. I'll catch you later, mate, I said as I walked to the side door. As I cycled through the streets, the sun felt amazing on my face, seeing people going about their business, driving cars, walking around, dogs barking, and birds singing. Everything felt normal again. As I approached my house, I could see my parents in the window. I had never felt so happy to see them. I went inside, hiding my arms and neck as much as possible, in case the burns were visible. Hey son, how was your night? Want some toast? My dad smiled. I'm okay, Dad. We stayed up all night playing on the computer. I really need to sleep, I replied. He rolled his eyes and shook his head. No problem. Get some rest. I climbed the stairs. Legs struggled like hell, but it could not have been more worth it when I fell onto my mattress. My room was nice and cool, and my bed felt like a cloud. I sparkled almost immediately. I slept right through into dusk. When I woke up, my mom had left some pizza lying on my bedside table. I sat up, put the TV on, picked a slice up, and started flicking through the channels. My stomach was grateful for the food. Something scraped my thigh, kind of like a tickle from something sharp. I got a fright, but remembered where I was. Eventually, I pulled the duvet off me. Immediately, everything flashed on my mind. As I sat there, everything rushed back to me in a split second. I dropped my pizza. My mind raced, as did my heart. On the bed, all around me, Polaroids. Lots of Polaroids. I picked them up and began nervously flicking through. The first was a photo from the crumbling stairs, showing Liam under us and the ladder in the far corner. As I hesitantly flicked through one by one, Liam got closer as something began to appear in the corner. A long black shadowy mass, tall and thin, stood just behind the ladder. Liam picks the ladder up and, like a stop-motion picture, slowly jerks his way towards us on the stairs. The shadowy figure follows very closely behind. Liam sets the ladder up, and the shadow is now directly in front of him. He is completely oblivious, as were we all, as Brian begins to crawl down the ladder. Meanwhile, the shadow has long fingers wrapped around Liam's neck. Brian reaches the bottom, and the shadow figure is gone. The last photo was just before I climbed down myself. Brian is looking up, waving me down with his hands in the air. Liam's finger is outstretched, beckoning me with a jagged black hand as he smiles right into the camera with glowing yellow eyes. The eyes seem to follow me. I jump back in my bed and threw the photos to the ground. My bedroom door handle begins to turn slowly, and the door creaks open. I pulled the covers up and hid my face. Danny, a soft voice quietly called. It was my mom. I pulled the cover back down from my face and looked at her. Sorry, son. I thought you might still be sleeping. You okay? She continued, entering my room. I'm fine. I'm just tired, I replied. Okay, well, when you get up, can you tidy this room up? She moaned. I rolled my eyes. Your friend Brian's on the phone. He said you left some stuff at his house, she mentioned, looking around my room as she handed me the receiver. Thanks. I said, shooing her out of my room with my hand. I put the phone to my ear. What's up, Brian?
Danny,
Brian's voice sounded horrendous. He sounded like someone was holding a gun to his head.
Danny,
He trailed off. What's going on, Brian? I stammered. I could swear I could hear him sobbing down the line.
Liam's missing.
Brian stammered. His voice was weak and shaking. I looked at the photos I had just thrown on the floor. His eyes were still trained on me from the bell tower, his fingers slowly curling, summoning me.
Danny, did you hear me?
Brian asked, sounding agitated. I think I know where he is, I replied. Tonight was part 5 of the Scotland Bell Tower Witch series, and marks the finale for season 1. But don't worry, there's still 2 more seasons to come. The story is written by the fantastic Reggaejunkigee. If you haven't done so, please go check out his Reddit. He has many other fantastic stories there. And joining me is the amazing Vidith22. If you guys are not aware, Vidith22 is also a narrator and has his own channel. Please go check both of them out, show them some love, and let them know PA sent you. But hey, did you know I have merch? Well, I do. And if you'd like to walk around representing my realm and gaining new travelers, the link to my merch store, as well as all my other social medias, will be in the description below. As always, I'd like to say a special thank you to all my lovely Patreons. 242 Reads, Rando Calrissian, Seraphine the Midnight Bard, Creepy Clown Girl, Mia Mina, Hair Raising Narratives, Spooky Booze, Scary Story Time, Lycan Trucker, and Pimp Demon. If you'd like to join these lovely travelers but light my fire, you can do so too by becoming a Patreon. Just remember, the support is always appreciated, but it is never expected. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and ding that bell if you're new for all future content, as it really helps push this video into the algorithm and helps the channel grow. But as always, once you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.